Well, hello. I'm recording this on March the 10th, 2023. And I want to go into some granular detail about the upcoming week or so, because we have a heck of a week ahead with some intense chaos. Now, Mars is, tomorrow morning on March the 11th is sextile by Venus, Venus representing money, relationships, values, and Venus is in Mars guided ruled Aries. Mars is in Gemini. I'm going to talk more about the details of all this and what it means. But tomorrow morning, March the 11th, Venus and Mars sextile each other. And then they set off a series of events that are going to be crazy after this weekend. Honestly, this coming week is going to be absolute chaos, and we can see it happening already. Today, one of the biggest, what do they call it? Well, it's a bank, but it was a bank that was specifically generally used for venture capitals. So by kind of like the corporate world, went into receivership, stocks are plunging, and I think there's going to be an awful lot more volatility. So let me kind of dive in a little bit. But before I do, I want to tell you who I am. I'm Louise Eddington. If you're new here, thank you for being here. And for those regular viewers, thank you so much for supporting me as I grow my channel. Please, please, please subscribe to my channel if you aren't already subscribed. Give me a thumbs up, leave me a comment. I always come in and at least heart or say, you're welcome to comments, and comment more sometimes as well. So I like to engage with you. And also, before we dive in, I would really also like to mention my sponsor, which is Four Sigmatic Coffee. They contain medicinal mushrooms, basically like reishi and so on. And the coffee helps me to have increased focus. I find it absolutely amazing. They do make other products too, like protein shakes and tea things and elixirs if you're not into coffee. But I found out the wealth of health benefits that medicinal mushrooms have when I worked in a health food store. So when they offered to sponsor me, I was so excited. And I have to say, I really adore their coffee. So with my link in the description with a code COSMIC, you get 30% off your first order. And there's a 60-day money-back guarantee. So give it a try and see if you like it. Now let's dive in. Whoa. Okay, so I'm going to share the chart first of all. Just quickly whiz through some things. I'm not going to do all signs podcasts, all signs on this one. I did a Saturn in Pisces all signs video. And since this this Mars Neptune square that's upcoming is to Neptune in Pisces, we will you can look at that area of your chart. You can also find where Gemini is in your chart. This is the symbol for Gemini. This is the symbol for Pisces. Go and create your own chart using astro-seek.com or astro.com and see where it is in your charts. Or come for a reading. Use whichever house system works for you, and just find out what areas of life are affected. But you're going to get some idea of where this is all happening, because this Mars-Neptune square that's coming up is the 3rd. I'm actually going to stop the sharing a minute first and just to give you some dates. Mars and Neptune first squared each other back on October the 12th at 23 degrees 21 Gemini Pisces. Then they squared again on November the 19th at 22 degrees 41 minutes of Gemini Pisces. And this final square is coming up on March the 14th at 25 degrees and 4 minutes. But that's not all. There is the square. But as I said, tomorrow morning, Venus is going to come up and sextile Mars, kind of kicking this thing off. This weekend coming as well, remembering I'm recording this on March the 10th, we also have a triple conjunction of Jupiter, Chiron, and Vesta. Vesta being the hearth, and also the kind of the representing the hearth of the state, so your personal hearth and so on. Now the moon has been in Libra and did oppose all this Aries energy that kind of kicked off this chaos that's occurring now. I actually have a financial astrologer friend. Her name is Trudy Carroll. Ask me if you want her details, but she said, you know, that Chiron in Aries is associated with inflation, and with the Libra moon opposing Chiron this weekend, this is kind of kicking off the chaos. I will say, though, it's not only affecting finances, it's affecting values. There's chaos in the UK right now. If you're not in the UK, look up who Gary Lineker is. He was a famous footballer. He's been let go by the BBC because he criticised the government. Because the British government are putting in a very anti-refugee kind of policy, and he dared to criticize it on Twitter, and he's out. Also, there's other chaos going on too, and it's going to be chaos all week, all around values, communication. We're not going to know who to believe, what to believe. There's going to be a lot of slippery language. There's going to be a lot of financial turmoil. This is turbulent and volatile week. It's probably one of the most volatile weeks we've seen for a long time. Okay. So I gave you the 3 dates for those Mars Neptune squares. This is the final of 3 squares, 25 degrees and 4 minutes, and that's on March the 14th. But right after Mars squares Neptune, Mars has been out of bounds since October last year as well, since that first square with Neptune, which means that he's acting eccentric, out of character. And in Gemini, that has been like havoc, to be quite honest, for me and for many people. He goes maximum declination the next day. But not only that, he also passes the point where he went retrograde last October the 30th. That's at 25 degrees and 36 minutes. So just 22 minutes after the exact square with Neptune, Mars leaves the shadow of his retrograde. And then the same day on the 15th, he goes to his maximum declination out of bounds until the 22nd, which takes us through the equinox and through a very, very powerful 0-degree Aries new moon, which I have also done a video on. So, and oh, there's one more thing as well. Tomorrow, March the 11th, Venus, remember, that's money, values, relationships in Aries meets Eris, the shit stirrer. Now, Eris tends to reveal artifice and where people have kind of been doing dodgy dealings or kind of where they've been thought they were above the law, shall we say. So that's going to be interesting. The other thing that's happening with all of this is that Mercury is combust the sun, meaning under the beams within 10 degrees, because Mercury is traveling behind the sun from our perspective right now. So our thoughts and news is burned out in already very slippery Pisces. So we're just going to be kind of like not knowing what to think or where to go or where to turn for some things. And the news cycle is just going to be insane. If you enjoy it, then watch it. If it stresses you out and makes you anxious, nothing you watching it will not change a thing. So just don't watch it. But I will say that self-care is really important during this time. So I do want to quickly get to some charts. Okay. So this is March the 15th. This is when Mars will actually move out of his shadow. So that's March the 15th at 11:38 p.m. Eastern. So it'll be March the 16th for many people. But I want to go back to October. So on October the 12th, 2022, the Mars was in Gemini, had been tootling along in Gemini and did square off to Neptune. But at that time, we only had Neptune and Juno in the sign of Pisces. But we did have like almost all the major planets retrograde at that time, not Pluto, but most of them were retrograde. So we knew that change was coming as well there. And we also have the major sign changes this month, but that was where we started. Nothing else in Gemini, not even Hekate was back in there. And then by November, Mars was retrograde in Gemini, again on his own in Gemini. And then we had a square to Neptune at 22 degrees, which was conjunct Jupiter. So very expansive. And the chaos started to pick up. Both Neptune and Mars were retrograde back then. Okay, so that's kind of where we were then. So fast forward to now. Okay, so I'm taking you to tomorrow, 10:04 a.m. Eastern. All right. We have Venus over here in Aries. She is coming up to sextile Mars at 23 degrees and 34 minutes, which is almost to the exact point of the last square between Mars and Neptune. So we've felt that building. We've had one bank collapsed. We've had shares like up and down and going insane and crazy. And the volatility in the financial markets is going to be crazy. But we've also got volatility in the weather. Pisces is water sign. It's precipitation. It's snow and water and rain. And Gemini is an air sign, which is winds. And like today here in Utah, we have the most windy, stormy kind of weather. It's blowing everything over all over the place. And we've got water coming in from California soon as well. We're supposed to get inches of water over the next few days. And some of that's going to fall as snow in some places. There's also, it's in East Africa near Madagascar. There's a big zombie storm, they've called it, heading their way. They said that we're not worried about the winds, we're worried about the amount of water that's going to drop. So I'm sure there's other places too. You know, I haven't had time to look at every weather forecast everywhere, but this is what I've seen. So the Venus-Neptune, the Venus-Mars sextile, which was activated by the Libra moon for a start, is going to kick off. Then we've got the moon as well in watery Scorpio, which is going to come up and trine all the Pisces energy. So water, water, water. So more floods, but also more emotions with all this chaos as well. And if you kind of think about watery and water signs, water and energy, the element, it is the energy of emotions. So our emotions are going to be kind of bubbling and turmoil inside as well with all of this. It's honestly probably the most insane week we've had for a long time. Now, I'm not going to get these exact, but look at this. We also have Chiron, Jupiter, and Vesta, all conjunct in Aries. And as I said, my friend Trudy Carroll, she said that Chiron in Aries is associated with inflation. Jupiter kind of expands everything. Now, I'm not, you know, she's the financial astrologer. I just see chaos coming ahead. But this is in the hearth as well. Jupiter, Chiron, Vesta is going to expand whatever's going on. And now, of course, Chiron is the wounded healer. So he tends to bring up the wounds to be healed. So, you know, for example, if we're looking at the financial markets, I'm not an expert, but my friend Trudy Carroll, she mentioned some kind of shorts. She said that they're going to be in trouble, and you know, it's where people have kind of been doing manipulative dealings and things. Is probably going to be really brought to the fore. I'm not saying they committed a crime, but you know how these things work. So that's huge as well. And this is at 14 degrees, which is a 14.5. I'm a 14.5 by birth, so I know the number well. It's quite a chaotic number. It's also the number of the media. So the news cycle is probably not going to be good over the next week or so as well. Then, as I mentioned, Venus is going to come up and conjunct Eris. So I'll give you some. So Venus is going to come up in conjunct Eris tomorrow night, March the 11th. So we feel that coming already. And this is at 24 degrees of Aries. And this is at 24 degrees 13. And Mars is already coming up to 23 degrees and 48 minutes at this point. More chaos, more absolute chaos. And then Mars is going to square Eris. And remember, Mars is our drive and our will and our energy, but he's out of bounds and still in the shadow of his retrograde at this point on that's May the 11th. Oh, that's not what I wanted. Sorry about that. Let's go back to Venus conjunct Eris. March the 11th. So that's huge too, that this is happening as well. And then after that, we have the Mars square. So I'm going to take you to that, and we're going to just look at what else is around it, because you're probably going to notice that I have an awful lot of extra kind of bodies in this chart, and there's a whole reason for that. So okay, so Mars square Neptune is happening on Tuesday evening, but this is such a big square that it's not going to just happen on Tuesday evening. We're going to feel it building. We're going to feel the aftershocks for some time. But look at this. Okay, here we have Heracles, Hercules, the strong man, but he was like played by Hera. He actually murdered his children because of her. So he's there as well, almost exactly conjunct. Then we also have Minerva, who kind of took Neptune on in a competition and won. She's also known as Athena. I talked about her in my Mercury in Pisces video. She is the wise owl, but strategy as well. But she's there. She's also wise justice. So where there's been no justice, Minerva is coming in saying, we want some justice here. So these two, 25, 26, Neptune at 25 degrees on the square. The sun is at 24 degrees as well, which is in a semi-sextile to Eris. Look at that. They're only 7 minutes from an exact semi-sextile. And so Venus has just semi-sextiled all of this as well after her conjunction with Eris. This lineup at all of this is just crazy. And I think Trudy Carroll, again, just talking of the finances, she said the last 5 degrees of the sign is when things start to happen for the next cycle, which is Taurus, of course, for speaking of Venus. But it's the same for all these signs. We're at the last 5 degrees of the signs now. And everything is starting to get shaken up and shaken and stirred, and big changes coming. I think we're in for a very rough ride, but a lot next week. Now, I said I would mention Mercury as well. Mercury is only within 20, almost 22, just less than 2.5 degrees from the sun at this point, going towards their Cassimi, which is coming up on St. Patrick's Day. So really, all of this is happening together. So I'm going to kind of show you. This is 25. And I don't want to scare the life out of you, but I do want to, I think, forewarned and forearmed, It's Okay, so here we have it all this lineup, 20, 24 degrees, 27 degrees, 25 degrees, Mars at 25 degrees. This is a 7 in a 7 year as well. At 22 plus 5 is 7. And 7 can be the kind of number where the rug can be pulled out from under you. It's kind of a bit tower cardy before things are rebuilt. So, again, I really do not want to scare you, but I do want to forewarn you to pay extreme attention to your self-care next week. If you get anxious, the Gemini and Pisces mutable signs, if you have anxiety, this is likely to kind of really trigger you. Even I'm not an anxious person necessarily, but even I feel a little bit kind of that nervous tension in my gut when I think about what's coming. And when I heard first about this bank about to crash yesterday, I heard it from somebody I know who kind of got wind of it. And I think, it wasn't secret information. It was out there in the business world. I felt this like something's coming. Something is coming. Okay, so just know that something's coming. Look after yourself. We also have, at the same time as all this is happening, March the 14th, Hekate over here is coming up to quincunx Pluto. Pluto's finishing his job in Capricorn in big style. Remember, Pluto's been in Capricorn since 2008. And he's now finishing up his journey. He's going to move into Aquarius on March the 23rd. And so that's chaotic in itself. If you looked at my my March forecast video, I talked about how many energies were changing signs this month. That in itself causes chaos because we're moving into completely different energies that we haven't experienced either before for a long time or in our lives. We've never known Pluto in Aquarius in our lives. And he's going to bob in and out. He's going to pass the 0 degree of Aquarius 5 times by November 2024. So we've got a lot coming. Oh, there was one other thing I wanted to mention to you, and I will draw my line on. So the moon's there too. And if you remember, I said that the moon was in Libra over here, opposing Chiron and things when this kind of started to happen with the bank and things like that. The news started to come out. A T-square. The moon over here in Sagittarius, pointing right at Mars and square to Neptune and the sun, because we're going to also have the last quarter moon, which is always a crisis in consciousness, before the March the 21st new moon. I'm just going to stop this and just talk to you. Like I said, I do not want to scare you, but I want you to look after yourselves while we're in this middle of this chaos. I want you to be aware that it's going to feel kind of stressful. Some of us kind of quite enjoy the watching the news and seeing all this come out, but I think of all the other chaos out there at the moment that's coming thick and fast. The bills that are being passed to pretty much ban gay marriage in the red states. Arizona's now banning books as well. Florida's like just going insane, and I'm clearly not on that side of the equation. If you're not on my side of the equation, then please just choose to, move on a little bit and don't comment. Your scrolling is a great option. But I do want to read to you what one of my friends who lives in she lives in Florida said, and she's a great coach as well. So she said, in Florida, there's like a dozen bills to take or limit the rights of marginalized people, including banning the Divine 9 Black Pan-Hellenic groups here in Florida, banning women's studies, The legislatures are in session and they're all walking around town like they own Tallahassee in the state. She said they're doing more regulation and government interference in their private lives than, and they're the ones that claim freedom. So you can tell what side of the equation I'm on. But these bills are coming. My point is that these bills are coming quick and thick and fast too. We've got chaos out there in that world. People don't know if their rights are protected anymore. It's just kind of scary right now, to be quite honest. But I do think we're going to be okay. We're just kind of in this time of flux with things changing signs, and the last degrees and the first degrees are kind of the chaotic places, because we're finishing a time in the old sign, and then in the new signs, when we get to the 0 degree, it is a fresh start. But that's, you know, kind of like the Fool card in the tarot. You might kind of fall off the ledge. You might not look where you're going. It's all very new and fresh, and we're quite naive in that sign. So I'm going to pull your card just for next week. So cards, maybe 3. Give me some guidance for this coming week that is just going to be a bit chaotic. Well, very chaotic. I do want to say, of course, as well, though, that we are born from chaos. And it's kind of that Tower card energy where things start falling apart to be rebuilt. So have faith, which is very Piscean as well. But the confusion, Mars square Neptune, is going to bring so much confusion this week. Okay, so these cards are so interesting. I've got the bees are there as swords, and we got 3 of swords, but we got it reversed. Okay, so these cards I'm still getting to know. I will be using these cards exclusively during my Venus retrograde Heroine's Journey class, which is coming up in July. But this is I am sad, but this is reversed. But anyway, let me read the quote. This is a Shakespeare quote. He is not worthy of the honeycomb that shuns the hives because the bees have stings. Okay, so he's saying, you know, I'll read this. So this might be a time of sorrow and sadness emanating from loss, heartbreak, and suffering. We may feel overwhelmed and alone, and find ourselves in an immersive place where we can think or feel nothing else but our sorrow. Delusions and illusions may invade our thoughts. An understanding of our pain will be accepted in time, but our heart and soul will fight back. Slowly, we will find the strength to move forward and onwards and upwards. When times of sadness visit us, we can easily forget that we are loved. And as we heal, we will see that love is still there for us. And because these cards are slightly different, I'm going to say I pulled this reversed. And yes, it may be a time of sadness, but what this is saying to me is that we can kind of nurture ourselves. Look at her. She's very kind of cuddled up kind of thing. She's naked, but she's cuddled up, and she looks fairly comfortable that way, even though she's crying and the heart's above her. But she's got the bees around her talking to her. And this kind of says, you know, just look after yourself, nurture yourself, maybe have a long bath and let yourself have a good cry in the bath or something. It's sometimes good to let all that flow through. And then the other card I got for this is 9 of Bees. Mars is in Gemini, which is the news and things. So, and that's communication and the words. And this is I am anxious. So this is a Marcus Aurelius quote. If you are pained by external things, it's not that they disturb you, but your own judgment of them. And it is in your power to wipe out that judgment now. Now, what I'm going to say, I feel that means is that, you know, it's if you get wrapped up in kind of the news cycle, if you start really hyper focusing on the chaos and things, and not taking care of yourself, you are going to get anxious. So please, please, please take care of yourself. I'm not talking about spiritual bypassing. I'm not talking about ignoring it or, you know, positive thinking it away. I'm okay, you know, please feel the feelings, but don't kind of obsess and get drawn into that which is making yourself anxious and making yourself worse. It won't change a thing. I think of the serenity prayer when I think of these moments, the courage to change the things you can. And if that's turning off the news, it won't change what's happening in the news. So it says we may be experiencing grief, regret, and mental unrest, all of which may be keeping us up at night. Self-doubt stings us and we feel agitated from the pain. Blah, blah, blah. Like, it goes kind of on about that. We're overflowing with dark thoughts and worries. But then we can leave the night shadows and find our true reality. The sun will rise and illuminate ourself. The Maoris say, turn your face to the sun and the shadows will fall behind you. So if you find yourself falling into this, please, please, please turn your face to the sun, find something good, because there's still going to be good in the world in the midst of chaos. Because remember, we were born from chaos and you're going to be just fine. I'll see you on the next video, but please just look after yourself. This is going to be a really kind of chaotic, volatile energy of a week. Much love.